Hello, today is part 5 of the Mario-like game series, and today we will be trying to add some destruction and destroying of blocks, interacting with blocks and whatnot. Just a quick recap of what we have thus far. So we can move, we can jump, and the enemies don't interact, but we can collect buttons. And what we want to do now is when we collide with our little box above, something will actually happen. So let's start it. Now, let's start off by clicking at the character. And here we have our player controller. Let's just open it. We'll create a new script. And we will call it the player block triggering. So we'll just use this as trigger. Now we could put it into our player controller, but we will rework how the player controller works. And I think it's nice to have everything separate till we finalize the ideas. So what do we want to do? We kind of want to have a very similar system to what we have with our player controller. So if we look at our player controller, we kind of draw a raycast. Actually, it would be similar to the enemy. So if we open our enemy controller, here we have a raycast like this. Now let's just copy this across. So let's create an update function and paste this raycast. Now this raycast goes up and left and right. So what we kind of just want to do is just do up because we want to only draw it up. We still want to have a private float ray distance, and we're going to set it to something like 0.6. And then we will still want a layer mask, just like in the other examples, because we only want to be able to destroy, well, interact with specific things in the first place, right? So let's just do a debug.log for now, and then write interacted with interactable. Sure, if that sounds all right. Now, the way we will separate blocks is by using different tags. So we'll use layers for knowing if it's the correct block for the raycast to go through. Now let's just double check if we will have the raycast ever pop. There we go, it does. What we kind of also want to do is only do it if our character is well, not grounded. So for now we'll just do this, but later we'll change this slightly. So let's go into our player. So we don't want to constantly keep casting. We kind of only want to do it. So later change this to detect if the player is grounded. The reason why I'm doing it like this for now is because we will be reworking this, and when we delete all of that code, well, change it, this will no longer work. So for now, there you go. Are we not triggering at all? Okay, you know what? Let's forget about this for now. And let's just add a line, only trigger later if it is grounded. I guess for now we can just constantly cast. That's not a problem. Okay, now if we do this, now let's do the next step, which will be assigning the tags. So we have a breakable block. So let's just attach this to our basic block. And let's just create a function. Actually, I think everything can just stay an update. So we'll do if hit.collider.tag is equal to breakable block. Then we'll just simply remove. Why is there an extra? Oh. Kind of need you guys to move slightly. There we go. So we'll just check for every type of block. So with this one, we just wanted to disable this block. We might have some animation later and whatnot, but for now, all it has to do is hit dot transform dot set dot game object dot set active false, like so. Okay. Wait. Control A. Okay, there we go. And then else if. So this is how we are going to check for the next block, which is gonna be this block here. Oh, I got a message. Now, this block will be interactable block. So let's just do that and do hit.collider dot tag is equal to interactable block. I hope I wrote it properly. And for now, I'll just do debug.log. This block can be interacted with, like so. And let's give this a try. So if everything works fine, we will destroy the block above us. Oh, interesting. Did we get all of them? Did I spell it wrong? Yeah, I did. Okay, let's give this another go. Okay, so we can destroy it. Maybe we'll add a little bit two raycasts like we did with the other one, so we can actually hit it with the edge, not with just the center. But yeah, this block can be interacted with, which is perfect. So what we kind of want to do is we want to create some kind of a script that will manage these blocks here. So let's go into our scripts, and we actually did. So we can remove this the block breaking script altogether. We don't actually need it. But we do have our block interactable, which we will drag to our blocks, and we'll just apply it. And in this script, well, we need to store a state of our block. And we will do this by, well, we need to have two sets of blocks in here actually. So if we click on our interactable block, we have our, or can we just replace the material? Yeah, we'll just replace materials instead. So I'll have a private material, and this is going to be our block materials, like so. And here, what we'll do is, as you see, we have a material. We're just going to change this into an array. And this will allow us to drag in more than one material in. So if we go into our materials, where are we? We'll set the default one to our question mark, which is what it's at before we trigger it. And then for our second one, we want to do it as the unavailable, like this. Let's actually apply this. And then on start, we will set our, well, actually we need the reference to sprite renderer. So sprite private sprite renderer, and then renderer is equal to this game object, component, sprite rend. It's not a sprite, it's a mesh renderer. Can I just call it renderer? I can. Let's see if it's gonna work. And then we'll just do renderer.material is equal to block materials at position 0. So that will default it. And then we'll just create a public void trigger interaction like this. And what we'll do here is, let's just call it rend, I guess. Then we'll do rend. We'll actually set this to 1. We might have some animation later. So triggers interaction with the interactable block, like so. What we want these blocks also to have is the power up that we want for our character. So that will do next. So set up the power up. Now, for our character, I think if I'm correct, there were two sets of power ups for the main character. So you had the large model, the small model, and then you would have another model, which was the large shoot model. So let's work on a large shoot model first. So I got the model here, and what I'm just going to do is I'll add a cube to it, just move it around so it looks like a gun. There you go. This is going to be our gun. Remove any collision from it. It's going to look like this basically. Just perfectly what we want. Now let's create a new script, and we will call this the player upgrade control. And go into our player character, drag that in here. And we'll store every single one of these models. So private game object, and we'll call this a player versions. Make it a serializable field. Let's make a comment. So 0 is default small, 1 is the big, 2 is big with fire. Now on start, we'll of course, later on, we'll have to load in the correct one, but for now, we'll just do actually, let's make a simple function, private void reset models, and we'll do player version 4, and then we'll do player versions.length, and we'll just set them all to inactive, so player versions I dot set active false, like so. We'll just run reset models here, and we'll set the one at position number 0 to true. What we'll actually also have is a private int player tier index, and we'll actually instead paste this here, and we'll set it to 0. No, change of plans. Let's go into a game manager. So our game manager will actually be the one to store it. So we'll have private int player, what's it called? Player tier index, like so. Just gonna set it to 0, and I will do this, and then if we go into our player upgrade, we will remove this entirely, and we'll just do game manager.instance.player tier index, like so. So that means that our player tier will keep moving through, and we don't have to worry about setting this up in the future. So it works properly. Now that we have this, let's assign all of our player models into our player. So first we put in the small model, then we put in the large model, and then we put on the largest model, like so. Now that we have this, let's create two collectibles. So let's select a question mark block, and let's create them both first. So I believe in Mario there was a mushroom as the first one, and then the second one. So let's just duplicate our enemy. So we'll just call it a mushroom, rename mushroom. Just gonna remove this. Let's set this to untagged. Unpack it. We still want the collision around it. Wait, why do I? Oh, I just realized that the collision is actually that this one has a box collider. We don't want it to have a box collider. So let's remove the box collider here. Just update it real quick. Okay, so for our mushroom has a capsule collider, which is okay. We're actually going to be slightly more generous instead with this one, and we'll make them bigger. So for the enemy, we kind of want to give player as much leeway for interaction, but with mushroom, we want the player to be able to interact as soon as they can. Now that we have this, let's undo this again. We're going to change this model, so we'll remove the face, we'll remove the legs, and it'll be just like this. Let me just Google how a Mario mushroom looks like. The one that you can collect. Okay, so it's like I guess a yellow. Let's open up Paint and create a texture for it. So we'll keep the stalk the same. Let's just resize this to 64 by 60. Come on. By 64 like this. And what I'm looking for is this kind of an orange color with red patches. So let's create some red patches. Here and here. There we go. Save this as mushroom texture. Now, doing things like this is, I believe, a great way to quickly create some kind of a textures, even if you're not an artist like myself. So let's create a new material, call it mushroom head. Drag in the mushroom head, click on the mushroom head, change the albedo to our new mushroom. And it looks awful, but it's okay. Doesn't matter. What matters is that it works. Now that we have this mushroom, so what will happen is we'll have the mushrooms and be inside the question mark. Well, and when we interact, we want them to go up like this and then move off on their own. First, let's get them moving, and then we'll set the walking to the sides. So we already know that our enemy can move this guy here, right? So what we can actually do is just change this slightly. Well, split the script up a little bit. Or actually, we don't. We can just attach this entire script to our mushroom. Because they both do the exact same things. Although, the only thing that will be different is how they will interact with the final player thing. So what I'll do is in here I'll create a C# script, and I will call it. Let me think. What would be the best way to do this? Wait, let's call this the mushroom controller. What if we have actually? Let's create the flower first. I want to try something. The flower controller. Okay, so for a mushroom controller, all we have to do is just inherit it from what's it called? Enemy movement, enemy controller, and what we have to do is just add our own on trigger enter 2D. Of course, our enemy will actually probably have that as well, a trigger enter. Or I'm actually unsure about it now. What happens if let's just add a mushroom controller to this for now. Ground is ground. Gonna start, and is it going right? Let's just leave it here and add a trigger to it and see what's gonna happen. Does it fall flat through the world? Is my question. Yes, it does. It's funny because guys. Oh, because there's a. Okay, so this is something that I need to look into. Enemy, where are we? Is there no any weird? So how come there was one in here, but there wasn't one there? Okay, so that's not gonna work. So what we kind of have to do is just add two sets of collisions. For this, I believe would be the best course of action. Where are we? So one collision is just going to be used as a little, well, the grounder, but the other one's going to be used for interacting with the player. So let's just add, I'm just going to add a box collider 2D here. I actually wonder if this will work as I expect it to. And no, box collider. We really need another capsule collider. Copy component. Paste component is new. Come on. Where are we, mushroom? And okay, so that's that one. And then that one's there as well. So let's set this one to trigger and leave that one as a non-trigger. And how's that going to behave? Okay, so it moves. I slightly need to move the other one. Okay. Firstly, do this. Secondly, just give this a go. Okay, it's pushing it. That's fine. It's still too high though. Why is it so high? There should be no other collision, right? No. Pum, pum, bottom. I mean, this one doesn't matter. It's that one that matters. You can offset it, right? Yep. Offset it on the Y. Maybe a little bit like this. Try this. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so now that we have this, now let's just do this. Debug dot if collision dot tag is equal to player. Is it called player or is it called player one? Dun, dun, dun. It's called player. Okay. Debug dot log interacted with player. Just a quick check. Actually, I just realized that I completely lost track of what we were doing. Yeah, so that's fine. So what we'll just do here for now is this dot transform dot set active. Well, this dot transform dot game object dot set active false. And before that, we have to apply power up. But yeah, actually increase the mass a little bit. Kind of want to see how quickly it falls. Oh, that's great. It's too far from the camera. Come, mushroom. Yeah, no. Actually, just drop down more to the floor. You just have to drop straight away. You know what? I'll leave it for later. Whatever. What I do want to do is, besides that, is actually do the block. So let's forget about the mushroom for now. when we click on this block, what were we doing? Block interaction, that's the one. So set up the power up. So we actually have to store in two sets of power ups. Private game object, and then we will have a power ups. And then what's going to happen is we will only trigger the power up that we have to trigger. So we'll do this by checking our current level of the player. So we basically set a power up, and then at the end we will change block to unusable. So let's just add a private string tag, unavailable tag. And the unavailable tag is going to be what we will change our block to once it's no longer available. This is going to be unbreakable block. Unbreakable block, like so. So what's going to happen is we will then set the material to 1, and we will do this.gameObject.tag is equal to unavailable tag, like so. And now we have a different name for the tag, and the block looks entirely different. Of course, we then have to spawn in the correct object and then make it go up and down. Okay, let's just give this a test. So I jump. Come on. Interesting. It's not interacting. Oh, I think I know why that is the case. We didn't actually run the code. So we'll do hit.collide. Well, hit.collider.get component, and that's block interaction dot trigger. No, what is it called? Trigger interaction. Trigger interaction, like so. And with this, we have a changeable block. Pop, there we go, it changes. We might put this through a coroutine instead, so it's a little bit more smooth later down the line, but we'll just leave it at that. And what we also want to do is have a private transform, and we will call this the, what's it called? Collectible spawn location. And what's going to happen is, there you go. So what's going to happen is we'll do our, so first here we have to check what kind of upgrade level it is to display the correct power up. So let's open up our game. Let's open up Game Manager. Go. There's so many scripts open. Okay, so we don't need that. We just need the Game Manager. Where are we? Right, so we have the player tier index. So we can use this player tier index to find out what kind of a power up we need to spawn on our block. So all we will do here is if our game manager.instance.player tier index is equal to 0, then we know we are currently in our default state. Else we basically just spawn the big mushroom. So we'll do where are we? Power ups, and that's going to be at position 0. Dot transform dot position is equal to our and then we'll do power ups at 0, and then the game object dot set active true. Of course, later we'll add animations here, so this code will be slightly different, but for now it's just going to work, and that's all we really care about. And that also means that we kind of just have to loop at the start and set all of them to false. At I.set active false, like so. There we go. So that's the entire script for triggering our interactable blocks. Now let's just add in everything that we need to add. Too much floor. These guys can go away. So if we go here, drag in our mushroom here, just say it's positioned to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Yep, there we go. I'm just going to duplicate it and make the flower now while I'm at it real quick. But I'm just going to drag them in. So this is going to be called the flower. Now let's create a copy of the flower. Okay, so your mushroom, you're already disabled. How can I make a flower without actually making a flower? So one thing that I'll change about how the flower works is, I believe, it's not going to have a rigid body. That's fine. It's not going to have a mushroom controller, no rigid body. That means we don't need a second collider. What we will add to it is a flower controller, and this will just have on trigger enter. On trigger enter 2D. And actually, we'll just, where are we? Mushroom. Let's go to mushroom controller. We'll simplify this code later with inheritance and whatnot. I just need to figure something out in my head first to see if it's going to work or not. Okay, so we just do this. Applying of the power up will come soon. Where are we? Let's first create the model. So for a flower, we will change our colors to, I guess, it's just something simple. Materials. So we'll just have the, wait. No, we need to create new sets of colors. So flower green, and we will have also yellow. Flower yellow. Okay, so our flower green is going to be a darker green, and the yellow is going to be as yellow as we can get it to. Let's just assign the correct color. Now, what we'll do here is just expand this upwards, make it a little bit smaller. Now here, this will be, of course, smaller as well. Whoa. This will be very small, like this. And I'll create another one, which is big, and give it a white color. 1, 1, 1. But that's too big. And I'll actually position it behind like this. Now I know it looks weird right now, but in 2D it will actually look okay, more or less. Now it looks weird, very weird. I don't know, it's fine, it's good enough. So there you go, that's our flower. Let's just set it to actually make it slightly smaller. These are way too big. Oh, I only wanted to select these guys. How does it look? There you go. It's within the collider now. Okay, now that we have this, we do have some kind of a, let's add a power up. So we'll add a mushroom first, flower second, and we also need a point, an empty game object. So this is going to be the spawn position. Let's give it a little marker so we can actually see it. Where is it? Add it to a question mark, or reset the position. Put a 1 above it, which should be fine. This might have to be micro adjusted, and then apply. And now each one of them has one of these. It's gonna set it to false by default. There we go. So let's see if it works. Now we get an error What's the error? Okay, I actually need to go to the toilet real quick. Oh, we didn't assign a spawn point. So a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll be back to continue with the actual scaling of the player. Okay, sorry for the wait. I am back. Okay, so let's give it a try. Should work now. There's no reason for it not to. There we go. And now we get the mushroom, which slowly starts moving. Where's the mushroom? Actually, something that I will add is a grounded, and we'll only allow them to move because this gravity, added gravity, is silly. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll only allow them to move, basically, so they don't fall down. So they just fall straight, no movement if they're not touching the ground. But that's for later. Let's actually make a note of it in our enemy controller, so we remember. Where do we apply movement? Where are we here? Stop movement if it's not on ground. There we go, like this. So that's what we're going to do later. Now let's add the power-ups when we collide with the player. So what we'll do is, actually no, let's leave this for another section. I think we did all right today. If anything, we can just do some visuals for the cylinder enemy that will be appearing up and down. Yeah, we actually have a lot of scripts that require our objects to move up and down. So I guess we should start working on it. We'll also actually have to have a script that disables our colliders, which is probably going to be here, until they're ready to be moved. So we will first move them up and down, then disable the colliders and whatnot. Okay, but yeah, I think we've done fair. I don't want to start something because there's not enough time to continue. So we'll just call it quits for today, and then tomorrow or whenever I'll actually have time to stream, as I've been getting more and more busy, we will add making our players grow. And yeah,